Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Spotlight Series, brought to you by YWCA Spokane. I'm Jasmine, and I'm so excited to launch this special series, where we'll be shining a light on the incredible organizations and individuals who are making a difference in our community. Whether you're tuning in from near or far, this series is all about connecting you to the heart of Spokane, its people, its work, and the stories that inspire us all. Each episode will dive into the impactful work happening right here in our community, learning from those who are leading change, supporting others, and creating a brighter future for everyone. We'll explore how we can all be part of the solution in building a more just and inclusive community. So get comfortable and get ready to meet some amazing people and learn about the incredible work happening right here in Spokane. Today we have Maggie from Odyssey Youth Movement, so I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maggie Hardy. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm the programs manager for Odyssey Youth Movement. So generally, that means that I run all of our drop-in programming. I work with kiddos, teens 13 to 18, and then 18 to 24, just providing them a space to be in community.
Yeah,
so
that's a very broad range.
Yeah, it is. They're not all together all of the time.
Okay.
So we have a 13 to 18 group and then a separate 18 to 24.
Oh, but they do get the opportunity to kind of interact with one
Yeah.
another. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to be able to, talk to people of different ages and, kind of have that, gain that experience of how do I talk to a person that's this age?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Odyssey Youth Movement, tell me a little bit about the mission, everything that you guys do.
So Odyssey has been around since 1992. So it started as part of the Spokane Regional Health District, an initiative kind of following the AIDS epidemic, or like part of the height of it, as a way to kind of give a space to young gay teens. And originally it was very much like centered in on young gay men, because that's who needed the most attention at the time. And now it has turned into an organization where we have a physical building, and we have a center where kiddos can come, a kind of an after-school style program, and get a hot meal every night they're there, participate in some sort of programming, which is most of what my job is planning and facilitating programming. So sometimes we have guests, like we just had Chloe from YWCA come in and do Healthy Roots, and then we also have some EW grad students right now doing writing workshops, and a whole breadth of things, from like arts and crafts to let's talk about what consent is, or let's talk about sex ed, things that they might not be getting in their school lives that we can provide from a very like specialized point of view within the LGBTQ plus community.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other organizations that you've been able to collaborate with to kind of bring that in apart from EW?
Yeah. We work with a lot of different organizations. We work really closely with Volunteers of America. We have a lot of folks, a lot of teens who come to the center who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. So we've done a lot of programming recently with them about what to do when that happens and the limitations of VOA, because it can be really complicated with minors. And so trying to figure that out. And we work really closely with the other queer orgs in Spokane. So Spokane Pride, Spokane AIDS Network, Spectrum Center. We have a pretty close relationship with all of them.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Has there been one that's really been super impactful to you?
Oh, we just recently had a couple of people from the Department of Justice come in. We have a board member who's works there, and did a workshop with our young adults about reporting hate crimes, which is very impactful and also unfortunately very necessary all the time. And so it was really nice to get to see some of our older participants in that 18 to 24 range learn kind of why their voice matters and what's actually happening when they report things like that, instead of feeling like it's just like going into the ether.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, there's it can be really confusing, right?
Yeah.
So it's that's super amazing that you're able to bring in somebody, especially somebody who's so well affiliated to your organization. and that you've had such great success and help in that.
Yeah.
But I know it's probably not always that way.
No,
I
yeah.
know there's challenges that you've come across. What's been most recent kind of big challenge that you've come across?
I think right now it's just with everything that's going on in our world and politically, it's been really difficult to try and find a balance with our teens of, like, there's a lot of fear right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty, especially for our younger teens who are worried about, like, getting access to healthcare. Our trans teens are so worried about, like, if they're on hormones right now, will they be able to continue those? Will they be able to start them if they haven't started? And finding the balance between being able to calm them down a little bit and be like, it feels like it's an emergency all of the time right now, but it's not. Like, we can take a breath and we can enjoy ourselves, and that in itself is a revolutionary act and an act of resistance, is like being in community and being happy, while also trying to, like, say, like, yes, your fears are valid. Here are some things that you can be doing to prepare if those things happen, and also let's pull back and, like, calm ourselves and be present.
Do you have flyers that you distribute? Is it all in person? If some youth come and show up at the place?
Yeah. So we have both. So they can always show up and talk to me or other staff members. We have a mentor program as well. So we have volunteer mentors who come in once a week to hang out with the kids and to do some of that community building. So we have a pretty large age range of mentors as well, which is really nice. So we have folks who are in their, like, early to mid 20s, and then folks who are up into, like, their 50s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
oh,
it's a really big age range.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice to be able to see them, like, kind of imparting wisdom and stuff like that. But we do have a lot of pamphlets and resources. We have a staff member, Chandler, who does a lot of referrals and can kind of sit down with kiddos, which I do as well, and we do all the time, but have some kind of one-on-one space where they can ask about, like, affirming healthcare providers, therapy resources, housing resources, all of those kinds of things, and more information to, like, take home and maybe give to parents or just keep for themselves. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That
Yeah.
That's incredible. And is it, if a youth is interested in wanting to check out what Odyssey is all about, do they just show up? Can they call you? A website?
Yeah. So if they're worried about coming in just on their own, they're more than welcome to call us or email us. On our website, we have a contact form, so they can always do that or call us directly. And 90% of the time, someone will be in the office to answer. And if not, we'll call back within like a day or two. But really, it's a drop-in style program. So we're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 13 to 18-year-olds. And that's 3 to 8 p.m. And they just show up to Odyssey, come in. Hopefully we recognize that they're new. And we will give them a tour, get them all set up with paperwork, and introduce them to some of the other kiddos so they can start building community.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know when Chloe and I came to tour the place, it was so homey. And it was very spacious.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and just there's different rooms that you have, right? Could you remind me what you have?
Yeah, so we have an art room, which is fully stocked with art supplies, so they can use whatever they want when they're there. The space that we're in used to be a duplex, and so we have kind of two houses that have turned into one a little bit. So we have a whole kitchen just for them to find snacks, so we fully stock it. We have a kind of a program room where we do most of our arts and crafts things and all of those kinds of programming. And then we have a really big living room with a TV and a Switch and a DVD player so that they can play video games or just hang out or do whatever they want. And then we have a clothing closet, so we take clothing donations, gently used, and we sort them by size, not by gender of clothing, and they can just go in and take whatever they want. Especially during the winter, like we tend to have a really big stock of like winter clothing and coats and scarves and hats and things. And then in the summer we'll take out our like swimsuits and all of those things so that they can take whatever they need. And then we also have what we call our quiet room or our library. So we have a pretty large collection of LGBTQ plus literature, both fiction and nonfiction. So they can take whatever they want. And it's an honor system, and we hope they bring them back, but if it disappears, they needed it more than me. And so we have that space also to provide an area for neurodivergent folks who might get a little overwhelmed in the rest of the space, because it can get pretty loud. Teenagers do not have volume control. And so sometimes we just need a space where, like, we don't hear that. And so that's what that area tends to be used for.
Yeah. Am I remembering correctly? I believe you also have headphones?
Yeah, we do. We have noise-canceling headphones for folks, so if they wanted to, like, still stay in the space with all the other kiddos, but still need that kind of quiet, that they have that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you mentioned arts and crafts, books, as well as clothing. If somebody out in the community did want to donate, are there like days or hours set in time?
Yeah. So usually if you show up during drop-in hours, which is that 3 to 8 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, someone will be there who can take the donations from you. But it's all, again, just like with showing up at the center, you're more than welcome to just contact us, call us, email us, and we'll find a time to schedule, especially if that 3 to 8 doesn't work for you. We do have folks in the office at different times when we're not open for drop-in.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. So given the work that you do, and the population that you help provide services for, are there any misconceptions that you've come across or that you hear that maybe some people out in the community are like, oh, I don't really know Odyssey? Is there any misconceptions that you've come across?
Yeah, I think it can be hard when you're working with teens, and especially the model we use. I think one of the misconceptions is just that sometimes it feels like it maybe is not a space for everyone, or that it appears that way, but it really is. And even though sometimes we focus on the most vulnerable populations in our groups, like trans folks, there's still space for folks who don't identify that way, who are but who are cis, or who are questioning, especially. I know we've had some folks who come in and they're like, I don't know my sexuality or gender yet. I might be straight. Can I still come here? And it's like, yes. Like, this is a space for you to not just be in community when you already know who you are, but to also, like, explore and be here. Yeah, and I think another misconception I've heard, especially from parents, is a worry that, like, we're not looking after their kiddos. I can tell you that's not true. We have so many adults in the space all of the time. And you've been in the space, like, it's kind of hard. There's not a lot of hiding place. Like,
pretty open floor. Yeah.
There's not a lot of space for them to not be looked after and watched. And so I think that's something that we've come across. But yeah.
Oh yeah. That's so awesome, just to provide a space where you can go and make friends too. And I think especially for teens, knowing that it is a safe place and that everybody's friendly and so willing to help. And I mean, there's snacks, there's all these activities I get to engage in. I think it'd be great for any individual to just show up and be like, oh, like, what is this place? Kind of like you do with any other area in Spokane. Yeah. And is the Spokane community, is there anything that they can do to help support you, help support Odyssey?
Yeah, 100%. Financially, obviously, like, you're more than welcome to donate to us. We take donations. We have some really lovely monthly donors and that kind of stuff. But we also always really, really, really love food donations. We spend a lot of money on food for the kiddos. Teens eat a lot of fruit snacks. And so that is one way. And then just showing up for them when we have community events, because 90% of the time we're very strict about our age guidelines and who's allowed in the space. But there are times where in the summer we'll have something called Pride and Perry, which is our main, like, big event that we put on that's open to the community, and just show up. I think it can be really hard as a queer person, and especially as a young adult or a teen, that you don't always know that people in the community care about you or respect you. And if you don't show that outwardly, they'll never know. And so showing up and making your stance clear can go a long way for these kids to feel more comfortable and accepted in our community.
Yeah, I think that's, it's just so simple, right? Just show up, just be there, and that's the best way they can see that you are there. And that you are supporting them. Maybe they don't say it, maybe they don't write it in a card, but they're there, present. Yeah. Right? We all start somewhere, so I think that's a nice reminder for everybody to have. Yeah. What drew you to this role and wanting to be on Odyssey?
Oh, I think a lot of things. Right out of college, I worked at Eastern Washington University in their Pride Center for a couple of years, and Pride centers at universities work very similarly to us, a little bit less structured than us, for sure, but I met my best friends at the Pride Center when I was a student there. I met some of my other best friends there as an employee, and it was really a formative and important space for me as I was kind of coming into my own as a young adult. And I didn't have something like that when I was a teenager. I grew up in Idaho, and that just wasn't on my radar. That wasn't available. And so in college, I learned about Odyssey, and I didn't have nearly enough time to get involved as a college student or as a professional once I had graduated. But I had applied for this position once before, like, straight out of college, and definitely was not ready for it. If I had gotten it 3 or 4 years ago, I would not have lasted long. But when I saw that it came back up, I just know that I love working with teenagers. I love being able to help them figure themselves out, help them figure out their life and what they want to do, and be someone that they can talk to and have a sounding board, because being a teenager is really rough.
Yeah.
It's so rough, especially when you have something else and another identity that is also making it harder for you. And so I think just the thought of being able to make an impact and kind of be the person that I needed when I was their age really, really drew me to Odyssey, and I adore it. It's hard work. It's really hard work, and it can be kind of emotionally draining sometimes, but in the end, it's worth it to be able to see all of these teenagers, like, learn and grow, and sometimes, like, hopefully in the next couple of years, I'll get to see some of them, like, become adults. And that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, just knowing that you were part of the process, right? And that was what I was also leading up to. If any moment comes to your mind of, oh, this reaffirms why I'm here. Yeah, have you had any of those little moments?
Yeah, we give out free binders to teens and young adults, and we do binder fittings, and those live in my office. So there's 2 levels to Odyssey. There's the top level, that's where the kids are, and then the bottom is our little, like, basement offices. And every time that I get to give a kid their first binder, just, like, the excitement and joy, and, like, you can see that they, like, feel comfortable in their own bodies for the first time, is just, like, those little moments I think are what drive me. There are big ones too, but it's just those, like, little everyday of, like, oh my gosh, this tiny little thing made this person's life so much better. And they're so much more, like, excited, and, like, the smiles on their faces are just infectious. It's incredible.
And what is included in this binder?
Yeah. So a binder is a gender-affirming product. It's a chest binder is the, like, longer term. So it's mostly for folks who were assigned female at birth, who might be non-binary or trans men, who feel kind of body dysmorphia or and the word has left me. Who feel uncomfortable with their breasts or their chests, and so they can use a binder to kind of get a flattening effect, and have, like, a more traditionally masculine look. Yeah.
I'm really glad I asked, because I thought you meant a 3-ring binder.
No, yeah.
So, yeah. And I think that's what's always great about being able to sit and, you know, talk and converse, because there are a lot of things that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know that, but I love learning new things, so now when I hear the word binder, I'm going to be like, well, what are you talking about? Which one?
What kind?
Exactly. I know that we talked about some tough times that you've gone through, and that it is hard, but there are these little rewarding moments. Is there a mantra that you say to yourself that to kind of keep that reminder of, oh, it's tough right now, but keep going, keep going?
Yeah, I think, not necessarily a mantra, but I remind myself a lot that, like, the queer community has been here before. And so, like, even if worst case scenario happens in the world, queer people have existed forever. And we have found ways to find community and be together and be happy. Even if, like, we're criminal, like, even if our identities are criminalized, even if we're going through something like the AIDS crisis, even during those really, really hard times, we find a way to be together and to be ourselves. And that will always be the case. Like, we're never going to go away. And nothing can make us. So.
Good. Because I know that there are plenty of other people, myself included, that support and really try, you know, educating ourselves and just be there, right? Like you mentioned, there's a lot of different ways that somebody can get involved. It doesn't always have to cost money, right? Like you mentioned. And I know, like you mentioned earlier as well, it's a lot of tough work. So what's your self-care for yourself? And I know you probably teach them, like, this is what you should do, right? So what do you practice for yourself?
I think the biggest thing is I have a lot of hobbies, and I try to do them as much as possible. I love to bake, so often the kids reap the rewards of that, of that effort, of, like, I have way too many apple pie blondies on my counter right now. They're going to work with me. And also just, like, I'm really close with my family, and so spending time with them. My parents live a couple hours away, and I try to make as much time as possible to go visit them on weekends and spend time with them and spend time with my found family as well. Like, spend time with my queer community outside of Odyssey, and I love my cats, too. My cats are everything to me, so.
How many cats do you have?
I have 2. So I have an older tabby named Persephone, and a little black cat named Hades.
Do their names derive from someone?
Yeah, so Hades and Persephone are Greek gods.
Okay, that's where I've heard it.
Yeah, Hades is the god of death. And Persephone is the goddess of spring, and they're, in mythology, they're a married couple.
Are they a couple cats?
No, they they're not big fans of each other. Persephone is kind of a crotchety old lady now, and Hades is the most skittish little lady ever. And she's still kind of kittenish, so they tolerate each other.
Okay, same household, you know.
Which,
different
hey,
space.
some marriages are like that too.
You know, very true. That's so funny. You were a youth yourself once. If you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, what would it be for yourself?
Oh. I think as a youth, and especially as a young teen, I would have really loved to hear that, like, that I would survive. I think as a queer youth, there's a lot of hopelessness sometimes. And like we were saying earlier, like, it's so nice to be able to talk to folks who are older than you and who are at different stages, and to be able to, like, see myself as a queer adult who was, like, out and doing the work that I do, to be able to say, like, one day, like, your job will be being a professional lesbian.
I love that title.
Yeah, like, Maggie Party, professional lesbian. Just, like, hand a business card to little Maggie.
This would be the coolest business card.
Yeah. But yeah, to be able to say, like, you're gonna make a living and a career out of being who you are.
Oh my gosh.
That would have been, like, mind-blowing for me.
Yeah, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very, very beautiful put together. A little bit more about yourself that I'd love to get to know. Any secret talents that you have? A little fun fact you want to share?
I wouldn't say it's a secret talent, but I'm also an artist. I did my bachelor's in art history and fine arts. And so I do ceramics and printmaking and a bunch of other art things.
Oh my goodness, ceramics, that's so cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Is there a difference between pottery and ceramics?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is actually. So ceramics is working with clay as a whole. And pottery is specifically, like, making vessels to, like, eat out of. Yeah, so pottery is the act of, like, making objects for use, not always to eat out of, like, vases and things like that. It can often be more associated with, like, using a pottery wheel than hand building, because those are two different things. But yeah, pottery is a little bit narrower and is about, like, objects for use rather than, like, sculptural. So something that's more sculptural or less, like, doesn't have a specific use would be, like, more broadly ceramics. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen people also use, maybe this is along the same lines, on canvas. They'll, like, smear it out and they'll kind of create that third-dimensional effect, which I think is super cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely, like, mixed media, like, somewhere between ceramics and painting. Yeah,
super cool. Has there been anywhere that you've, like, showcased your work? Do you bring it to Odyssey?
Yeah, not for a while. I'm trying to kind of get back into having a regular practice. It's really hard, especially with the mediums that I love. They require studios. And studios mean money. And so I haven't been able to do a lot of work. But I did get to, when I first started at Odyssey, one of my first programs that I was like, we have to do this is block printing. And so it's basically like stamp making, so you make your own stamp.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And so I got to teach a bunch of the kids how to make their own stamps, and we printed them, and it was really fun to be able to, like, teach something that I love to do so much to them. And see the results. And some of them, I was like, you're better at this than I am. And I, like, have a degree. Like, I went to school for this. And I think you're better than me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I used to collect stamps when I was younger. That was my thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know where they are anymore. But I had, like, buckets and buckets full of stamps. And sometimes I didn't even want to use them because I was like, no, they're going to get inky. I'll just place them the other way. I can look at the pretty picture.
And they'll get all stained.
Exactly. Yeah. But you just brought up that little memory for me. That's awesome. That's super cool. I think it's, again, you know, older generations and younger generations, you get to teach them these new things that maybe they wouldn't have tried otherwise in their life. And maybe if somebody will make a career out of it because of you.
Fingers crossed, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's just, again, such a great reminder, you know, of all the great work that you're doing right now. So you're down the path in a couple of years. Yeah, you don't know where somebody will be, and it's all thanks to you and all of the work that each of you are doing as individuals and collaborating.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any hidden gems in Spokane that you think people should be aware of?
That's so hard. There's so many. Most of mine are food related.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah. Tamale Box in Kendall Yards.
I've heard.
Incredible.
Okay.
If you have the chance to go, it's so tiny. They really put the box in box, But they have some of the best tamales I've ever had. grew up halfway in Southern California. I have a lot of family there, and the ones at Tamale Box are really good, and their salsas are so good.
Yum.
Yeah.
I just recently am loyal to out in the valley. There's Choo Choo's Tortas.
Ooh,
have you ever been there?
No, I haven't.
Love that place.
Okay.
And then up north, it's a newer Mexican restaurant that just opened up, I think, about a year ago. It's called Los Habaneros.
Ooh.
Delicious as well. So now I have my valley and north location.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend those.
Hell yeah.
If you could have dinner with any 3 people that have ever existed, do you have any idea of maybe who you'd invite?
Narrowing it down to 3 is hard. I think one would be Sappho. I really love poetry, and Sappho's poetry was really important to me, and just like as a historical figure and as a historical lesbian, would love to just like talk to her and be like, hey, how does it feel to be who lesbians are named after?
That's awesome.
How does it feel to be the mother of all lesbians? And then I think maybe so many of mine are poets, which is a weird thing, but there's a poet named Andrea Gibson, who's a non-binary poet, who was poet laureate in Colorado, I want to say, and just writes the most beautiful, like, profound things in the world, and has a lot of poetry just about queerness, about being yourself, but also about, like, existing as a flawed human, and I would just love to meet them and sit down with them and tell them how much their work has meant to me. And then a third person.
Also, I just want to say I love that you're mentioning poets, because I don't think poets get enough recognition.
No, I don't think they do.
Especially in a world like today, where it's a little bit harder for people to find the time to sit down and, articulate those emotional feelings and make them beautiful. And I'm always amazed by poets.
Yeah,
so.
And Andrea Gibson does spoken word poetry and has a couple albums.
Wow.
So if anyone's ever looking for anything to listen to, some of it can be very sad and emotional. They have one of my favorite poems that they've ever done is one that was about the Pulse shooting. And it's just a very impactful piece about community, about fear, and about how we move forward through tragedy. And they're just literally incredible, and their voice is so soothing too.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Where I'm like, you're not only like one of the best writers I've ever read, but also one of the best like orators, which is hard to come by. But yeah, I think maybe this is so cheesy, but if I had to pick a third person, it might be my mom.
Oh, I love it!
I just, like, adore her so much.
All women. Love it.
Yes. Not a single man in sight. It's how I live my life. Yeah.
I love that. Those are beautiful. I think moms are also very important, and mother figures are somebody that we aspire to be as well, and just really admire more than anything. I can't remember. Are you a little bit of a reader as well?
I am.
Poetry? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of, this is a must read for anybody out there?
Oh, I definitely have a couple. One of my favorite books of all time, it's a YA novel. It's called Two Boys Kissing by David Levithan. And it is just, it's so good. It's a novel that's written from the point of view of men who died from AIDS in the 80s and 90s. And so the point of view is really interesting, the way that the story is told, but it's basically, them looking down on a bunch of different young, like, teen gay men, and watching them live their lives and being able to reflect on, like, what them as the, like, narrator miss about living, and then also, like, how proud they are of these kids for, like, still going. And it's just, like, one of my favorites of all time. It's definitely, like, a crying book.
It sounds like it.
But it's
definitely cry.
But it's really good. And it's short. It's like such a good, like, little nugget of a book. And then maybe I just recently read and finished The Meadows by Stephanie Oakes, who is actually a local Spokane author. And The Meadows is another kind of like YA young adult, like on the cusp, kind of dystopian novel about queerness and about society, and it's a really good kind of, another one that's like a little bit sad, but a lot very hopeful, and has a really interesting take on how society functions and how queer people can exist in a society that like doesn't want them there. Yeah, it's really good.
Those are lovely. I'll definitely have to link them down below and check them out myself. I'm always looking. I just kind of I just go back into reading.
Yeah.
And I used to love reading growing up, and then school came along, and it was like, oh, you have to read, and I was like, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just diving back into it, and I'm not really strict on any kind of genre. I just kind of read whatever, so I'll definitely check this out, especially that first one.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it'll tug at my heart.
I will say that is one that I read as a teenager, and when I was, again, like you were saying, like, really into reading when I was a kid, and then it kind of petered off. Most of the books I read now are not as profound as the ones I just recommended.
Same.
I read a lot of, like, silly little lesbian romance novels. So it's not all, like, cerebral reading.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I don't like sticking to one genre, because I'm like, I gotta mix it up and keep my brain stimulated.
Like, I need to give my brain a break when I've had to read something that is, like, so impactful, and, like, now I just need something that's, like, kind of a silly little Hallmark movie.
Question just popped into my head. Are you, like, a physical book, paperback, hardcover, or e-reader kind of person?
I generally am definitely, like, a physical copy person. I'm one of those people who, like, I love the smell of books. I love being in a library. I love being with my books. But I think as an adult, it's changed a little bit of, like, I like to have a copy of a book, but the thing that gets me to read the most is audiobooks now. I think something, maybe it's just me, but something changes, I think, as you get older, of, like, I think for me, I have this expectation of, like, I need to be doing something all the time and being productive, and sitting down and reading a book doesn't always feel productive, and so audiobooks have been my in-between of, like, I can clean my kitchen and clean my apartment and be reading, and so I get both at the same time, where I feel like I haven't, not wasted an afternoon, but, like, done something that maybe put aside the things I actually need to be doing. And so finding that happy medium with audiobooks has been, I'm picky about them, though. I'm very picky about my narrators.
Oh, I was about to ask, is it the narrator?
Oh, yeah.
I wish there was a function where you could have the same narrator, like, over and over again, right? And I have a Kindle.
Yeah.
So reading in the same font for every book, like, it's so, I think that's, like, what keeps me going. It's modified to what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's a really good idea. When I do, like, my weekly cleaning at my apartment, I think, having headphones and having a book, that sounds really nice, because I play music, but then I get distracted with the music. Oh, yeah.
100%. And sometimes there are times where, like, I put an audiobook on while I'm cleaning, and I do have to, like, go back an entire chapter and, like, re-listen. But it's just nice to know that, like, you have something. I love music, too, but, audiobooks are definitely my jam right now.
That's awesome. What's next for you and for your work and Odyssey?
Mostly more of the same. Sticking around, we're not going anywhere. But right now we are working on some opportunities for growth and expansion. We're trying to do some pop-up locations and pop-up events over the next year or so, to kind of try and pilot the idea of maybe eventually growing into having more than one location. So in the next couple of months, you'll definitely see some advertising from us to invite you to come to what is basically drop-in, but just somewhere else. And especially to try and hit those areas of Spokane and those communities that might not be able to access us. So trying to go into like North Spokane, Deer Park area, farther out in the valley, closer to Idaho, those kinds of things, so that more folks can get to us rather than just folks who can make it to the South Hill.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, putting a focus on that is incredible. It just really shows, where your thinking is and wanting as many people to be involved as possible. Yeah. Are there any upcoming events that we should be aware of that you want to share about?
So Friday, February 14th on Valentine's Day, we do have a fundraising event called the What's Love Got to Do with It Ball. So if you'd like to buy tickets to that, tickets are $20 for single tickets, and I want to say $45 for couples. And we'll be doing lots of fun stuff. There'll be some appetizers, desserts, drag, some live hear me out kind of games. If you've ever seen those hear me out cake videos.
The little pictures.
And some other fun opportunities to just like hang out, be in community, and support us. And then looking forward, if you are a teen or know a teen, April, I want to say 18th, is when we've scheduled our annual youth queer prom. So we have a group of youth who are starting to plan that right now. And every year we put on a big bash for all of the teens to kind of get that prom experience that they might not have at their school or be comfortable going to with their partner. So yeah, look out for that.
Awesome. Anything else that you'd like to share?
Oh, I don't think so. Just I think it's important right now to have hope, and to remind ourselves that the people who care about us most are the people in this community, and to focus on our community and not. It's important to be informed about what's happening in our country and what's happening in our world. But the place that you can often do the most good and have the most impact is right here in Spokane. And I love Spokane and I want it to be a great place. So hopefully we can all make that happen together.
I agree. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Maggie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then down below, check out our other spotlights, and we will see you later.